Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show, checking the pulse of Husker Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been absolutely nothing to talk about this week. This is my sixth gut reaction this week. I'd never done 3 gut reactions in one day before like I did last Monday. This is my second gut reaction today. I guess my 5th gut reaction, I can't even count anymore. Not that I ever could. All right. And I'm actually going to be putting out another special edition Carriker Chronicles tomorrow that I'm going to record after this evening. But if you're like me and you're happy that Nebraska has a top 20 recruiting class in the country, they were able to flip playmaker 4-star wide receiver Cortez Mills from Oklahoma to the good guys here in Lincoln. Also, if you noticed, nobody flipped from Nebraska to going to anywhere else. All 19 players who were expected to sign today signed, plus Cortez. If you're happy nobody flipped and got away from Nebraska and everything else I just mentioned, smash that like button if you haven't done so yet. Make sure you subscribe, ring the notification bell. I dropped a major video earlier today. I already mentioned that. I'm going to drop that big time video tomorrow, so make sure you like and subscribe so don't miss anything we're doing here on the Carriker Chronicles. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I sat down to watch Matt Rhule's press conference. I figured there'd be a lot to talk about. Holy crap, it was loaded. I could not write fast enough. I had to pause the video multiple times. My wife comes in like 40 minutes after it's over. She's like, you know that's over with. I'm like, not for me. I'm trying to take all these notes and write. Now, this is also my final thoughts, gut reaction, final reaction to Nebraska's signing day class. So I'm going to break down offensive players, defensive players, where they're from, the star rankings, and my thoughts on the players, plus how we compare to other teams in the Big Ten. Top third, I might add, how we compare to other teams in the country, how the Big Ten compares to other conferences in America. By the way, the SEC and Big Ten are just stomping a mud hole in absolutely everybody when it comes to recruiting. That's going to be towards the end of the video. Let's dive into what Matt Rhule had to say in the press conference. All right, he said for years, they've done the prayer at the 50-yard line, never had a problem until Colorado and then USC, Colorado a year ago, USC this year. All right, and then at the Iowa game, there was 7 armed troopers that were going to prevent them from just simply praying at midfield. Now, Matt Rhule did say that they should have shaken hands. He's like, we always shake our opponent's hands. He wasn't aware that that happened until after the game. He wants to represent Nebraska with class, along with winning, but represent Nebraska with class is something I absolutely love about Matt Rhule. He did say that the players felt some kind of way about the 7 armed guards at midfield before the game. He said, when it comes to college football and the way it is and the way this week's been, it's kind of the new normal. You got to get comfortable with it. It's how it's going to be. And he went above and beyond to thank all of his players, all right, that were on the team to the season up to this point, whether it be guys still on the team, guys who've graduated, guys who will or won't play in the bowl game, guys who are now entering the transfer portal. He wanted to thank everybody. He said it's been a long time since they beat a team that ended up this ranked at the end of the year. Colorado's ranked. Okay, it's been a while since that's happened. Now, we did mention that Tony White spoke with Rhule on Sunday and said he wanted to get his family back to Florida. Obviously, this was not exciting news to Rhule, but that's how he found out what was going on with Tony when Tony spoke with him on a Sunday. Now, he mentioned he's had 2 defensive coordinators in his college coaching career, and they have both been Broyles Award finalists. Basically, finalists as the top assistant coach in America. Tony White was a finalist twice, I might add. He said, and I quote, "We will find a great defensive coordinator. We will play great defense." End quote. He was very definitive on this, by the way, I might add. All right, talking about Dana Holgorsen, he usually has an inside wide receivers coach and an outside wide receivers coach. Obviously, Nebraska's projected to bring on a new wide receivers coach. All but a done deal. Okay, and I'll probably talk about that in tomorrow's video as well. Now, he talked about his history. Year 2 is 6-6. Year 3, they make the jump. And he said, and I quote, "We'll make that jump," end quote. I love Rhule. I love his confidence. I didn't love last offseason when I love the confidence, okay? But action speaks so loudly, I can't hear anything you say. Not just Rhule, but anybody, me included, okay? I didn't love last year when he said, going into the season, when he was like, it feels more like a year 3 than a year 2. I was like, why do that? Why? Just let it play out. I love the confidence, all that. We're going to be so young next year. And I'm going to do shows on the roster and how different it's going to look. Every single one of our starters on defense was an upperclassman, and 8 of them were seniors. By the way, just if you look at the defense alone, look at the offensive line. Now, a couple of those guys got hurt, banged up. Mizuka wasn't starting after a while, but we're going to be young. But he said we will make that jump. All right. He said, we got some guys who could come in and play early in this class. They're gonna have to play early. He likes this class a lot. He wasn't braggadocious. He was definitively confident several times talking about this class. I get the feeling he really, really likes this class. Not just because he has to, because they have to play early, but he legit does. All right. The bowl game defensive coordinator is going to be John Butler. I'm with you. Kind of like a little audition. He even said at practice, I'm getting a feel for how he calls things. What's his cadence? How's he do things? And he talked about, he brought him in knowing that Tony White was probably going to go somewhere after this year. I think the idea at the time last summer when he brought John Butler in was that Tony was maybe going to go be a head coach, right? Not go be a defensive coordinator somewhere else, but I digress. The point is, by the way, someone put in one of the comments, I'm going to take a drink every time Adam says, I digress, I digress, I digress, I digress. Good luck walking after that. All right. My point, I got to get back on track. My point is simply this. He brought in John Butler in anticipation, easy for me to say, of Tony White going somewhere else after this season. So it wasn't something he was unprepared for. He's going to be the D coordinator for the bowl game. He's going to take his time and wants to make sure he finds the right defensive coordinator. He does not want to rush and make the wrong call. A fan asked me that on my Adam Carriker show on the ticket the other day. What's more important, getting the defensive coordinator or doing it quickly? I was like, oh my God, getting the right guy is way more important than doing it quickly. So I agree with Matt Rhule there. He has no timetable on this, by the way. All right. Now, he said there's several defensive coordinators who've reached out, and the resources that Nebraska has is quite intriguing and enticing to these defensive coordinators. And he said current Power 5 defensive coordinators have reached out and are interested in the job. He doesn't want to. Now, I took what he said. He doesn't want to change what they're doing. I took that as he doesn't want to switch from the 3-3-5. I put that out on social media, and someone responded with, they didn't take it that way. They took it differently. So we'll see. And I can even go back and watch the press conference again. Maybe I'll feel differently after I watch that a second time. But I took it, he doesn't want to switch what they're doing. I took that as he doesn't want to switch from the 3-3-5. And that's still how I take it. Somebody else might take it differently. All right, again, I'll watch it again later on. He said, and I quote, we're going to be a great defensive team. We're going to play great defense. We're going to have guys that get drafted in the NFL, end quote. He was definitive with this stuff about the defense. He was definitive about his confidence in this class. All right, Rhule's feeling on the portal has changed over the past year. Rhule has always been about development and relationships and things of that nature. And you got to keep in mind, when he first started coaching, you could hit the transfer portal once. Now it's pretty much unlimited. You can do it like twice in a year. All right, and we've seen that happen. Luke McCaffrey's a great guy, but he hit Louisville in the portal a couple of years ago, just popped into my head, and a week later he was gone to Rice. Again, he's doing great in the NFL right now, nothing but love. He's come on my show multiple times, but the portal has changed drastically from when he first got here, so he views it much differently, and I think he's going to attack it not a ton differently, but I'll get into that in just a minute, but a little differently. He did say he will aggressively attack the portal was my next note, but I'll get into that in just a second. He wants to add, here it is. He wants to add, when I'm writing so fast, I don't remember what I wrote half the time until I'm going through it again, but it's a gut reaction. I want to get this out quick. All right. He wants to add about 10 to 15 portal guys, probably closer to 15. I think Dana Holgorsen says on Nebraska's live signing day show that the Huskers will bring in somewhere between 20 to 30 transfer targets for visits this offseason. Okay, visits, that's the key word in there. Because Matt Rhule said they want to add about 10 to 15 guys from the portal, 7 or so, give or take, on offense and defense. So probably closer to 15. All right, when asked about getting another quarterback in the portal, all right, by the way, Jalen Gromstad, who could come back for another year, hasn't quite decided what he wants to do. He ultimately wants to be a coach someday. Obviously, didn't play this past year. But when asked about adding a fourth quarterback from the portal, right now you've got Dylan Raiola, Heinrich Haarberg, and TJ Lateef signed today. All right, he said he made a commitment to Heinrich Haarberg to let him play other positions. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Part of my show tomorrow, I had a great conversation with the source and got a big update on Heinrich Haarberg. That's going to be a big part of my show tomorrow. So tune in for that. But Heinrich wants to play in the NFL, and he wants to play other positions and contribute with Nebraska. All right, so he made that commitment to him. When asked about a quarterback, he wasn't ultra definitive. I'd be surprised if they don't bring someone in. If you're going to have Heinrich be the backup quarterback but do other things, and then your third stringer's a true freshman, I'd be surprised if they don't do something at some point with a fourth quarterback, whether it's Jalen Gromstad if he stays or somebody else. All right, there was a lot of older guys on defense when he got here. I already mentioned that. All right, now younger guys will have to play earlier. And this was something I thought was interesting. Tom Osborne, this is actually something not from his press conference, from earlier today. I saw on a different show. Tom Osborne told him to recruit Nebraska players and to prioritize them first. Now, he's brought in 6 Nebraska players this year, 8 last year, 8 in his first recruiting class, and the 8 in the past 2 years of his recruiting classes, so 8 each year, the first 2 years, was the most Nebraska had brought in of in-state high school players in a recruiting class since 1998. Caden Vermas, he mentioned, runs a legit 4.4 40-yard dash, said he was timed at 4.49 at their camp last summer, said he finds a lot of these players at his camps. All right, everyone wants to hire the recruited guys, but he looks for certain things you can develop. You might be big, but maybe not highly recruited, might have interest. Speed, he loves speed. Bobby Bowden, one of my favorite quotes ever, he said, and I quote, "Speed, either you have it or you're chasing it," end quote. I think Matt Rhule feels the same way. Jackson Carpenter runs a 10.5 100-yard dash. He said, and I quote, "Jackson can really, really run," end quote. He's also very explosive, long jumper as well. All right, Matt Rhule, when asked about the skill guys, said, and I quote, "I'm really excited about the skill guys we signed," end quote. When asked about NIL and things of that nature, revenue sharing, pending a House settlement being approved, which it sounds like it's going to, by the way, NIL is going to be the main thing this spring, but then it flips to revenue sharing come July 1st. And on revenue sharing, he said it allows us to be in a different conversation than we've been in before recruiting-wise. All right, Rhule said it gives us a chance. In other words, they have a better chance. There's money in Nebraska. There are people who are invested in this program, and it gives us a better chance when it comes to getting better recruits. It just does. Win some more games with the money and the brand that is Nebraska, but win some more games, it'll increase it even more. All right, right now there's unlimited free agency in college football with the money that's out there and basically the amount of times that you can transfer. Rhule referenced that. Said Dana's offense, okay, when asked about Dana's offense, and I quote, "It's one that guys are going to flourish in," end quote. Matt Rhule, keep in mind, he's a former Penn State walk-on, okay? Hates narrowing down the roster from 150-ish to 105. He hates eliminating the walk-on programs. I do too. My brother-in-law's a walk-on. It's how I met my wife. He was a walk-on defensive end. We were friends. That's how I met Angie. And now some players don't have anywhere to go. And you can just feel how he feels about that. And he does not like it. It's not just lip service. All right, everyone's trying to figure out the new college football, he said. When asked if he's comfortable with it, there was a little pause, but I think he's like, it is the way it is. Deal with it. Like, so yeah, he goes, yes, I'm comfortable with it and I'm going to flourish in it. That's what he said. All right. Said he's sad that Tony left, but he said if people don't want the players and coaches here at Nebraska, if they're not trying to come get them, you're not doing something right. So while it sucks, some of the things that have happened earlier this week, best wishes to Terrence Knighton, who's officially gone. It's official today, if you didn't know. Tony White and guys have entered the transfer portal, best of luck to him. All right. Tried to warn people about what was coming. Outside of the coaching changes earlier this week, really the amount of people hitting the portal, he tried to warn people. He used the word panic when people speaking with him and him getting bombarded with texts, a couple of times. All right. But he said he tried to warn people. All right. He emphasizes an elite competitive streak. He emphasizes an elite competitive streak and mental toughness when recruiting. He wants guys who've been in tough situations. Half these guys have played in a state championship game, which means you've been scrutinized, you've been watched, and you've played against the best, and you've been in tough, high-pressure situations. Now, he doesn't expect a ton of bowl game opt-outs. Now, he's still meeting with players, okay, other than the guys who are already in the portal. He wants to learn more about the young guys throughout these bowl practices, the bowl game, and said the seniors were not practicing this week. Tuesday, Thursday, they're practicing twice this week. Obviously, a lot going on this week. They're going to go to 4 days for bowl practices next week. But he wants to really get a feel for the young guys. All right. He said Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmaker do want to play in the bowl game. You kind of got the feeling Rhule was like, you might be a relatively high draft pick, talking specifically, either one, but specifically about Ty. Like, I'm sure he wants him to play, but he also wants Ty to do what's best for Ty. So we'll see what happens. But I know for a fact they want to play in the bowl game. Absolutely loves Dawson Merritt. And I did an interview with Dawson. Go back and check it out. The dude's tape is highly impressive. I was highly impressed with him after I interviewed him. Husker fans are going to love Dawson Merritt. Said he can do everything. He's a true outside linebacker. He can rush off the edge, he can tackle in space, and he can cover one-on-one. So he's very excited about Dawson Merritt. Again, expects a bunch of young guys to play. Now, from my understanding, and I may have to double check this, early enrollees can practice and play in the bowl game. And if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments or whatever, but I think they can. So again, this is a gut reaction. So sometimes I've got to double check stuff later on, but holy cow, that's interesting. Think about a guy who enters the transfer portal. Let's say a guy enters the transfer portal, comes to Nebraska, and right now, Brett McMurphy has us slated to play in the Pinstripe Bowl versus Louisville. So let's say a Louisville player comes here, joins Nebraska, and a week later you're playing against your old team that you were maybe you're going against your roommate that you were just roommates with. Maybe you're still roommates with him. I don't know. Probably not if you're in Lincoln. But in the bowl game, dude, it's just, what a wild time this is in college football. All right, let me get back on track here. Thinks very highly of this class. He wants Cortez Mills, the Oklahoma 4-star wide receiver player that's now with Nebraska. He's a Nebraska commit now. Okay, a Nebraska signing. He wants him dreaming about playing and playing early. All right, no timetable for the defensive coordinator. Really wants to get the right guy. That was reiterated when asked about Marcus Satterfield, what the plan is with him. I like Marcus Satterfield so much now. He said he will coach tight ends going forward, and that was Dana Holgerson's call. Holgerson has full reign of this offense. Now, I've mentioned this before. I was brutally honest with my thoughts on Satterfield at points this year until the change was made with Holgerson. I was brutally honest with Rhule. And Rhule earned my respect when he invited me to come to the practice, talk to the team. Satterfield, when he looked me in the eye, shook my hand. He didn't go anywhere, didn't take his ball and go home, and is even going to come back as the tight ends coach. I respect that. I don't know how else to put that. Man, do I respect that. That's not easy. You were in charge of that offense, and here comes this guy who wasn't even here a couple of weeks ago. I don't want to say this guy, Dana Holgerson, knows offense. And you stay, you handle it with class, and now you're going to stay going forward. And Rhule said he thought the tight end position played as well as any offensive position on the offense this year, which I've said, by the way. So that's a huge reason why Satterfield's going to stay. All right. Going to dive more into the recruiting class specifically here in a minute, but I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, DPS Concrete Construction, ladies and gentlemen. They're the experts. They just are. There's other companies out there who do a great job, but I know for a fact they do a phenomenal job. Concrete, retaining wall work. If you're in the Omaha metro area, especially, and or in the state of Nebraska, go to dpsconstruction.net to get this work done. If this is the line of work you do, Jason Armstrong is the boss you want. dpsconstruction.net. Also, Bonzel Pool and Spa. Check them out at bonzelpool.com. If you want a hot tub, they've got them. If you want a pool, a sauna, they've got them. If you have said items, hot tub, pool, sauna, and you need them taken care of, they're the folks to do it. bonzelpool.com. If you go into the store, ask for Jeff, tell him Adam sent you. bonzelpool.com. All right. Rhule just loves relationships. He loves building relationships with people. I didn't just watch his press conference. I watched the other show that he was on today, and I watched other things he was on today. So some of this stuff is no longer from the press conference going forward, but he's been recruiting some of the guys in this class for 2 to 3 years now. And he loves building that relationship and that rapport over time. And I think in his mind, it's going to make them more likely to stay than a guy he could only recruit for 1, maybe 2 years. Obviously, he's been here longer, so he can recruit these guys longer. He has a better relationship with them. Now, he still wants to emphasize high school recruiting first and then supplement with the transfer portal guys. I think he just may do a little bit more supplementing than he had previously planned when he first got here through the transfer portal. All right. Oh, random. UCF is in talks with Scott Frost. I just thought I'd point that out. Wish him nothing but the best. All right. Let's see. Heavily wants to recruit St. Louis, Kansas City. We have signees from 11 different states across the country, and he's going to emphasize California a little bit more Kansas City is like 3 hours away. A lot of good ball players come out of there. St. Louis, another big-time Midwest football city. All right. A lot of big-time ball players come out of there. And then he wants to emphasize California a little bit more. We're going to be playing USC, UCLA, so why not? A lot of talent out there in California. And as of right now, no additional flips to or from Nebraska that I'm aware of. Obviously, things can change over time as far as people coming to Nebraska more so than anything. And it's interesting with the transfer portal. I was curious to see what he was going to say specifically about the transfer portal, how he was going to handle it. You look at Colorado, they about won the Big 12 this year. It's the Big 12, but they were 1-11 2 years ago. My question, what do they look like next year without Shadur and Travis Hunter, who Deion came in the door with? By the way, he flipped the number 2 player in the entire country, number 1 quarterback or number 2 quarterback, flipped him to Colorado. But can he rely on a true freshman next year? We'll see what happens. My point is Colorado turned it around through the transfer portal. Look at Kurt Cignetti in Indiana. All those James Madison and Ohio players, largely James Madison, but then their quarterback, Curtis Rourke, came from Ohio. Their top receiver came from Ohio. And then 9 James Madison players. All those guys start. I believe over half their players were previous starters at non-Power 4, because we're going to pretend the ACC and Big 12 are still power conferences for now, are starters there. My question is, what do they look like next year when all that experience is gone? I'm genuinely curious. Amazing year 1 turnaround. 3-9 to 11-1. They won more games this year than they had in the previous 3 years combined. Okay? Total wins and just Big 10 wins. Look at them both, their conference record. But what do they look like next year? Because I look at Florida State. They made a big-time turnaround, went undefeated last year through the transfer portal. A year later, they were supposed to be all this and that. Look what happened. And they're not without talent. NFL scouts went down there. All right, Nick Saban went down there and said, that team's got talent. But it's called a team for a reason. How are these things going to play out over time? I still get the feeling Matt Rhule's trying to do it a little bit more the long, more solid way, which is a little bit harder to do, takes more patience, especially in today's day and age. It can be harder. Is it going to work? I do think he's going to do a little bit more through the portal. He does view it differently than a year ago. But I don't think he wants to do the Deion or Cignetti route 100% or the Florida State route. Okay, a little bit of volatility with that. I think he wants a firm foundation. I mean, the dude's got a 9-year contract for $80-90 million, so he's got a little bit of stability there. Surround yourself with the right coaches, my man. I'm rooting for you. He knows that. All right. Nearly 10 Nebraska players have said they're going to enter the portal at this point, probably 30 to 40 by the time the bowl game arrives. All right. He mentioned with this bowl game, looking at younger guys, he mentioned last year, Miller Moss played great in the bowl game, in the Holiday Bowl. They killed Louisville, and he became USC's starting quarterback going into this year based on what they learned through bowl practices. All right. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I had a couple of quotes I wanted to share with you fine folks. Christian Jones said he committed to a program and not a coach. He said, and I quote, "This is a special group. Stay calm and have faith in what Coach Rhule is building," end quote. Cortez Mills, and I quote, "The Nebraska coaches never let their foot off the brake," end quote. Oh, this isn't a quote, but Chuba Purdy is in the transfer portal, as I mentioned in my show earlier today. This could be potentially his 4th different school in 5 years. That's just crazy to me. All right, and Caden Vermas, when Coach White texted him after Coach White was going to Florida State, he texted him back and said, "Thank you," and then texted Husker coach Matt Rhule and told him, "I'm all in." All right, I thought those things would be interesting for you fine folks at home. Now, here's the actual class and my final thoughts. They have 20 signees, 11 4-stars, 9 3-stars. That's got to be about as many 4-stars as I've seen in Nebraska football recruiting class in recent history. All right, again, 20th ranked class in America, 13 players from the 500 recruiting mile radius, the 6th ranked class in the Big 10. In the Big 10, it goes first Oregon, then Ohio State, then Michigan, then USC, then Penn State, then Nebraska. We are top 6 talent-wise yet again in the Big 10. Let's get top 6 results, huh? All right, 8 defensive players, 11 offensive players. Jeremiah Jones listed as an athlete. And he even talked about coming into the press conference, because there was rumors he was going to flip to Missouri today. He goes, just got Jeremiah to sign. There was some last minute poaching, but recruiting. But they were able to get him to sign right before the press conference started. So there's 7 linemen, 7 trench warriors, I'm going to call them in this class. 4 on offense, 3 on defense. There's 7 offensive skill guys, quarterback, running back, wide receivers, 3 linebackers. I should mention, Pierce Newberry is a 4-star linebacker as well. Christian Jones, Pierce Newberry. Now he's 205. Got to put some weight on. Okay. And then you've got Dawson Merritt. athletic linebacker class, and 1 DB, 1 safety, so 2 defensive back types. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, check out CarrikerChronicles.com. It's where all your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true. Signing day, Terrence Knight and Tony White, new defensive coordinator. Check it all out, CarrikerChronicles.com. Also, here are my 3 questions for you fine folks at home. Let me know your answer in the comments below. Number 1, what grade would you give this recruiting class? A, B, C, D? You give it an F, just get out of here. A minus, B plus. All right, number 2, who do you think is going to be the biggest impact player next season? We need players to play early. All right, for the Huskers, I'm going with Dawson Merritt. Could be Cortez Mills, but I'm going with Dawson Merritt. Number 3, we need wide receivers specifically to step up. Isaiah Nayor is gone. Jamal Banks is gone. Malachi Coleman hit the portal. We do have Ja'Cory Barney and Jalen Lloyd, but we need some guys to step up. All right, Cortez Mills, will he make an impact next year? Let me know, yes or no. Go Big Red. Merry Christmas. And always remember to throw the ball.